Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the presentation of the basics of results-based accountability, RBA professional certification presentation by Gwen Brown, myself, Xavier Fuller, and Ayelet Ginzel. Organization is Behavioral Health Systems Baltimore, and we're presenting on today, January 7th, 2022. Okay, so we want to begin. All right, so hello and welcome. The persons on our team are employees of Behavioral Health System Baltimore, or BHSB. BHSB is the Public Behavioral Health System Baltimore Incorporated, is a nonprofit organization tasked by Baltimore City to perform the function of managing Baltimore City's behavioral health system, the system of care that addresses emotional health and well-being and provides services for individuals with substance use, and mental health disorders. We help guide innovative approaches to prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery for those who are dealing with mental health and substance use disorders to help build healthier individuals, stronger families, and safer communities. My name is Xavier Fuller, and results-based accountability, in short, is defined as a disciplined way of thinking and taking action that can be used to improve the quality of life in communities as well as the performance of programs or organizations. The objective of today's presentation is to explain these concepts as well as how they come together to create a process for achieving goals and measuring success. Um, we will first define and explain turn the curve thinking, which is the process of starting with the end in mind and working towards it in a disciplined way. This process is used at all stages in RBA. We then explain how RBA is used to make community impact by bringing together the right partners and accountability for the whole versus the parts. No one organization can take responsibility for a community problem. The process of doing this is defined in RBA by um, population accountability, where a group of partners takes on responsibility for the well-being of a population within a geographic area. We'll also touch on performance accountability, where a manager or a group of managers takes responsibility for the performance of a program and focuses on the well-being of a customer versus the whole population. RBA is a method for learning, planning, and taking action used across organizations to improve the quality of life for whole communities and to improve the performance of specific programs, agencies, and service systems. It starts with the end in mind. What do we want? And works towards the means. What will it take to get there? Mark Freeman developed the RBA, which is detailed in his book, Trying Hard is Not Good Enough. Whether utilized to develop strategies to improve quality of life for entire populations or with ways to obtain better outcomes for the clients of specific programs, RBA analyzes the critical data to identify the key drivers of performance and to determine actions most likely to turn the curve and move the indicators and the measures in the right directions. There are many reasons to use results-based accountability, which includes RBA uses transparent communication and data to make sure that both community member and leaders are held accountable. RBA helps communicate work together. Help RBA helps communities work together. RBA helps overcome typical leadership problems by allowing for creative thinking RBA is also a step-by-step process that everyone can understand. And RBA gets from ideas to implement it into plans quickly by keeping it simple. There are key principles that RBA is based on. It starts with the end, the results we want for children, families, and communities, and works backwards to the means, the strategies and actions needed to achieve the results. As you can see in the side we have provided. The RBA thinking process is called TTC, also known as turn the curve thinking, which is a term used to define the way we work through the process. Turning the curve is the language used to describe the strategies and actions that we will take to improve outcomes. As we do this, we answer the following questions. How how am I doing? I'm sorry, excuse me. Called I think I got lost. Sorry. The starting point in turn the curve decision making is to identify the desired end. It is to improve the quality of life for the population, called population accountability. Does it concern how well a program, agency, or service system is performing, defined as performance accountability? This means that we need to define the result we would like to achieve to better understand. We did identify the population program we would like to affect, look at the current situation, and forecast the future if we were to continue as we are doing without taking any action. We determine the result we would like to achieve by taking planned action in a data-driven manner. For example, our team looked at average response rate to phone calls, which seemed to be affected negatively by COVID-19 pandemic. Through this process, we measured the response rate over time and found that it was taking increasingly longer times to respond to phone calls coming into the organization. Our team wanted to learn more about this and work to lower the response time back to the rate it was before the pandemic. The next step is to tell the story behind the curve, to identify what we believe are the reasons the issue persists. One of the building blocks of the RBA is telling this story using common and simple language. Using strictly professional terms can become vague, as different terms mean different things to different people. It also keeps only people who are well versed in the language at the table, and less diverse solutions can be found. We define contributing factors, restricting factors, anticipated factors that help or perpetuate the problem, as well as additional research that we need to conduct. We conduct rigorous evidence-based analysis to further identify underlying factors that affect the baseline. In our case study, an example of positive factor that helped the situation is that over time, staff becomes more experienced using new technology. An example of a negative factor is that some home offices were not conducive to taking business calls. The receptionists and staff were not completely aware of the issues, while our external partners expected a high level of customer service. We then anticipated that change would take time and will not be immediate, as training and new processes will be put into place. We would need to further research the current process to identify specific changes we can make to improve response rate to phone calls. To improve outcomes of well-being for a whole population and geographic area, many partners need to share accountability for sharing information and ideas, learning from what works, and implementing strategies that work. This shared accountability is called population accountability. It requires It requires many partners working together to establish the outcomes we want to achieve. The indicators we will use to measure progress and strategies we will implement to improve quality of life for all children, adults, and families in the communities. We do the same when measuring and improving outcomes for agencies or programs, which is called performance accountability. When considering a list of partners, we ask, who are the partners who may have a role to play in turning the curve? Does the story behind the curve suggest any new partners? We also want to consider what works to do better by looking at research-based solutions, no-cost and low-cost ideas, as well as off-the-wall ideas that first may seem wild, but could provide more options for action. In our case study, we identified the IT department as one of the partners who could help by identifying and implementing a modern answering system. The action plan that is created based on all of this work will list strategies and measures to turn the curve and achieve the results. Selecting each proposed strategy involves applying specific criteria to each option to ensure effectiveness. Our action plan includes strategies such as identifying new technology to treat to track the rate at which our calls answers, as well as creating training materials that would improve awareness to the needs. All of these steps we discussed are defined by RBA as the turn the curve thinking process, which includes 5 core common sense questions that groups of partners can ask to turn the curve for population well-being, and that managers and staff can ask to turn the curve in the performance of their programs. These questions start with the ends we are trying to achieve and work backward towards identifying data-driven strategies to get there and help us remain transparent in the work. As we saw in our example, the questions are, how are we doing? This will illuminate the results we would like to achieve. What is the story behind the curve? In everyday language, we identify the population or customers and describe the reasons for the current situation, including what will happen if we continue to do things the way we have been. Who are the partners who have a role to play in turning the curve? At this stage, we list any potential partners who has any input or who could affect the outcome or the current situation. What works to turn the curve? Now that we know the situation and what we believe the issues affecting the outcome are, as well as partners who have the potential to improve the situation and those working in it currently, we can list potential solutions to help improve the situation. What is our action plan to turn the curve? Now we can create a plan built on all the steps we've taken to understand the situation and measure results. We start with the end. We want results and indicators and work backwards to establish the means to achieve these ends. To do this, we need to develop the measurements we wish to improve by first asking, how are we doing? We established indicator baselines showing where we've been and forecast where we are headed. If we stay on course, the trend. We also graph the trend we would like to achieve, the results, and the return on investment. Then We consider the story behind the baselines, the reasons for the situations we'd like to improve. We do this in simple, straightforward language that is not exclusionary and will ensure that partners are all defining the problem and the solution in the same way. We create a research agenda about the causes, identifying the root causes. We do this by asking why 5 times. We look for positive, negative, and anticipate factors, prioritize the root causes. We identified which are the most important to address for turning the curve of the baseline. We create a research agenda by asking, is there any other information on that we need? Identifying potential partners who may have a role to play in improving progress is essential. The identification of root causes impacting progress will often point the way to the types of partners who should be engaged. We look for as many potential partners as possible. Partners could be government entities, businesses, families, there's education, community partners, and funders. Before selecting a strategy to undertake to turn the curve of the baseline, it is necessary to determine whether what would work to turn the curve is known, and is important to be sure to explore the full range of options for strategies. A strategy may involve the discontinuation of existing activities as well as the implementation of new ones over a multi-year period. A number of criteria are considered in developing options. Does the option address one or more of the root cause identified? Aligning the results with the strategy is important. Is the strategy supported by data and evidence? What research or other evidence is available to demonstrate that the strategy has a reasonable chance of turning the curve of the baseline? In RBA, a diversity of thoughts is encouraged, so collecting as much information as possible is necessary to give the team more choices for action, regardless of whether everyone agrees on all of them or not. It is important to explore no cost or low cost options, or options that may be pursued with existing resources, as well as securing funding streams. This line of inquiry in turn can help to surface outdated assumptions that stand in the way of innovation. In addition, research necessary to determine what will work or to identify other options. Think of anything, even off the wall ideas. Trying to understand the story behind the current condition will generate a need for more information. An information and research agenda is disciplined way of pursuing unanswered questions about causes. The agenda can guide information gathering between meetings and halt incorrect assumptions about causes. The final step in the turn the curve thinking process is to come up with strategies that make up the action plan to implement and prioritize them. Priority setting is based on criteria. RBA provides 4 explicit criteria that can be used to select the most powerful actions. The criteria are leverage. This is the most important criteria. We ask how much difference will the proposed action make on the results in turning the curve. Feasibility. Can the strategy plan actually be done, and when is it feasible and affordable? Values. Is the strategy consistent with our personal and community values? Specificity. Is this action specific enough to be implemented? Or is it vague and rhetorical strategies should not be included? An example of this is all children enter kindergarten ready to learn, which is broad and vague. It's a population result, not an action. A specific example would be pregnant moms are provided special care to help increase healthy birth weights in babies, which could affect the brain development and the results, which is all children enter kindergarten ready to learn. We then rate each action or strategy high, medium, or low on each criteria. Often you will find actions that are strong on some criteria and weak on others. Higher rated strategies can be prioritized and implemented sooner. This process of turn the curve thinking is used and revisited repeatedly through the RBA process in population accountability and in performance accountability, as we will show soon. It is a dynamic process, and the team can go back to different stages and update the plan as needed throughout the implementation to make sure that they are consistently doing the right thing as the process may change along the way. Teams will meet at regular intervals to reevaluate the plan. The meetings can be very short, and specific agenda will be followed at each meeting, repeatedly asking the five turn the curve questions to make sure that the actions are still applicable and of high priority. So we want to make sure that we're covering on a meeting agenda, new data on how we are doing, new information on the story behind the curve, new partners that may have a role to play in turning the curve, new information on what will work to turn the curve, and changes to our strategies to turn the curve. And again, as we stated, this is dynamic and we want to update accordingly, and the meeting would be adjourned. All right, so at this time, I will be turning over the presentation to Ms. Gwen Brown, and she's going to explain the whole versus the parts. When you're on mute, if you are talking.
All right, can people see the screen? Good. Okay, again, I'm Gwen Brown. I'm going to talk about the whole versus the parts. So RBA describes two levels of accountability in which we can work to improve outcomes: population accountability and performance accountability. It relates desired conditions of well-being for entire populations to the performance of programs, agencies, and service delivery systems. To improve outcomes of well-being for a whole population in a geographic area, many partners need to share responsibility to decide on a population level what improvements should be made. They are together accountable for sharing information and ideas, learning from what works, and implementing strategies that work. This shared accountability is called population accountability. Sorry. It requires many partners working together to establish the outcomes we want to achieve, the indicators we want to use to measure progress, and the strategies we implemented to improve quality of life for all children, adults, and families and communities. Performance accountability is about the role that individual programs, agencies, and service systems play as the means towards those ends. Unlike population accountability, where accountability is shared by many partners, performance accountability is about the role of managers, policymakers, and funders to improve the performance of programs, the impact of policy, and the effectiveness of service reforms to benefit the people they serve. Performance measures help managers understand how much is being done, how well it is being done, and to what extent clients are better off. We can think of it this way. Programs are created through a population level decision process that determines whether the program should exist or not. Performance accountability picks up at this point, takes the program existence as a given, and moves to the next step of answering whether it is working or not. Making progress on population quality of life requires that the participation of a whole wide range of partners. No single agency or level of government can bear sole responsibility for quality of life. Quality of life partnerships require new ways of working together that bridge across different systems and different cultures. The framework of RBA is comprehensive in that it looks at the whole and the units that make up the whole. Success at the population level depends on partnerships between agencies and other units. Each partner is directly accountable for part of the result and does this by holding its own units accountable for their part. For example, an agency is accountable for their part of the result. The agency is comprised of departments that are each accountable for their part in the results of the agency. The accountability framework of RBA consists of both population level and performance level accountability, which are made up of many different parts. It's imperative that everyone define terms in the same way. Often different partners use different language to define the same thing. Other times, two people can use the same term, which each defines differently. So it is very important to agree and use language in a clear and disciplined way. And for this, all partners need to agree on certain definitions. RBA defines some terms and measures for us to ensure that we are all on the same page, which include accountability. Is defined as the relationship between individual and groups, where one is responsible for another for something important. Population accountability. Population accountability means accountability for the whole and includes measures in terms of results and indicators. A population result is a condition of well-being for children, adults, families, and communities. Stated in plain language, and an example of this is all people in New Zealand are healthy. A result is measured by indicators that help quantify the achievement of this outcome. Performance accountability is the accountability of each part, such as a government, service system, organization, or program, down to the smallest unit, providing services to their customers. Performance accountability is meant to ensure that their parts is done to achieve the population result. A measure of how well a program is working is defined as a performance measure. Once a program's contribution to result is identified, program effectiveness is measured. Performance measure for programs, agencies, and service delivery system answer 3 key questions. And those are, how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off? Now I'm going to pass it off to Ayolet.
And of course, I'm speaking on mute. I apologize. It's my specialty. I will share my screen now. I need to get to, I don't know how to do this in a quicker way. Here we go. Hi everyone, my name is Ayolet. I'm sorry about that. Indicators, performance measures, and turn the curve thinking. How do they work together? We use turn the curve thinking repeatedly in the process of creating indicators and performance measures by asking the 5 basic questions we discussed before. In this way, the work is aligned across all units working to achieve the same result. We follow these steps and revisit at intervals to make sure that we're on the track to succeed, organizing information according to where it fits within the 5 questions. The indicator or performance measure is found in the first step, how are we doing? And then we go through all the questions. The framework for this begins at the population level with identifying the population, which can be a whole population or subpopulation in a geographic area. Next, we ask what result or condition of well-being we want for this population, as we always start with the end in mind. We do this in experiential terms, that is, how we experience the result. An example of this is all children in Maryland enter school ready to learn. We convene as many partners as possible who are working within this population and can affect the result, to work together on an action plan that will help achieve the result. If we can identify results in plain language and in experiential terms, then we can look for data called indicators that tell us if we're getting these results or not. We choose 3 to 5 indicators for each result by prioritizing them. We can then continue using turn the curve thinking to come up with specific strategies or actions that can be used to work towards achieving the result. This is our action plan. The second half of the RBA framework is performance accountability. Once we have an action plan on the population level, it is up to each partner to work towards achieving their part in the result. These partners can be governments, systems, organizations, and/or programs. They use turn the curve thinking process to create strategies and actions that will help them achieve their goals and contribute to the result defined earlier. Performance accountability is how managers and their partners can improve the performance of programs, agencies, and service systems. This is measured using performance measures, which are the quantity and quality of effort and effect. Again, the quantity and quality of effort and effect. To do this, we ask 3 questions. How much did we do? This is the quantity of effort we exerted to achieve the result. How well did we do it? The quality of this effort. Is anyone better off? Did we improve the condition of well-being that we set out to, and how's the condition improved? In other words, did we achieve our intended results? Throughout the process of population accountability and performance accountability, we need to make sure we're doing the right thing as well as doing those things right. As we've seen, turn the curve conversations happen at all levels of the work in different ways, and turn the curve thinking is used at each level. At the highest level, during which we identify the problem and plan the work that the partners in the process will take on, we need to make sure that we're answering a real need in the community. And so we ask, what are the right things to do? Multiple partners ask that question. Later, as each partner takes on the part of the work that they're responsible for, they go through their own process of turn the curve thinking in planning and doing the work. They each ask continuously, are we doing those things right? Population and performance accountability are 2 separate processes. They both use a turn the curve thinking process, as we said. Anytime the RBA process is used, the work is planned and done by the whole, which is the highest level, and the parts are the partners that make up the whole. In this example, the highest level, or the whole, is a government, which is made up of agencies that comprise the parts of the whole. Since here the whole is not a population, both the whole and the parts go through the process of performance accountability to plan and do the work. This means that they both measure success in terms of performance measures. Again, the whole asks the question, what is the right thing to do, while each of the parts doing the work ask whether they are doing those things right to stay on track. performance. These are both performance accountability levels. This can work no matter what size unit takes on the role of the whole in asking what are the right things to do, and the partners that comprise the whole ask, are we doing those things right in order to stay on track? The whole can be any unit that is comprised of parts such as population, parts can be a government level, parts can be the different agencies, or even agencies, parts can be departments. Selecting results, indicators, and performance measures. Now that we understand more about population accountability and performance accountability, as well as the process of creating action plans, turn the curve thinking, the next stage is to discuss how we measure success. Success at each level of the RBA process is measured using either indicators or performance measures. At the level of population accountability, we select a result to achieve, and we measure our success in terms of indicators. At the level of performance accountability, we measure the results of each partner's work in terms of performance measures. First, let's talk about creating results and indicators at the population accountability level. Population results are made up of a condition of well-being that we would like for a specific population within a geographic area. We ask, are we doing the right things? Let's define these terms. First, we need to define the population in which we would like to affect change. This can be any whole population or subpopulation, for example, all residents, or children, or seniors. Populations or subpopulations are any whole populations within a geographic area. And this can be anything from the entire world to a nation, state, region, country, city, or neighborhood. Within these geographic areas, the population can vary to any identifiable subpopulation. So that we talked about New Zealand, Alaska, and Johannesburg could be the geographic area. The population can be all children, or it can be all children under 5, which is a subpopulation. Next, we ask what conditions of well-being we want for this population. This should be stated in plain language so that the results we look to achieve is very clear to everyone involved. All of these together comprise a population result. An example of this could be all children in Maryland enter school ready to learn. The population is all children. Within the geographic area of the state of Maryland, the state of well-being or result that we would like to achieve is that all children in Maryland will enter school ready to learn. RBA provides tips to help define a result. We ask, what is it that we want to see? So the first one is, we complete a sentence we want and state in simple and plain language that could apply not to that could apply to anyone reading it. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong line. A result should not be about a program or data. It should be about a population. We should be using simple, plain language. Avoid referencing data or improvement. Avoid referencing services. Think of service as a means to an end. The service is how we're going to get to the result. The improvement or data will be how we measure the result. For each result, there are a set of indicators that reflect the extent to which the result is being achieved. These will be prioritized. The 3 to 5 most important measures are called the primary or headline indicators and are those that you have the most data for. Secondary indicators are measures for which there is good data and can be used to assess the turn the curve thinking process. Examples of indicators could be the percentage of low-weight babies in New Zealand when all people in New Zealand are healthy as the result. If the result is all residents of Johannesburg are safe, an indicator could be crime rates. And if the result, for example, is all people in Canada have a clean environment, one of the indicators could be the percentage of day water is swimmable. To choose the best indicators to represent a result, we use 3 criteria. Communication power. Does the indicator communicate to a broad and diverse range of audiences? Would it pass the public square test? Meaning, if you were to state it in a public place, would it apply or interest a large audience? Proxy power. Does the indicator say something of certain importance about the result? Can this indicator be representative of the condition of well-being we defined? Is this indicator the strongest one of any we can choose that say the same thing? And data power. Do we have quality data on a timely basis? Is the data reliable and consistent? We then rate each indicator high, medium, or low on each of the criteria. The indicators that rate high on all three criteria communicate well, tell us something of central importance about the result for which good data is available. We use this ranking to prioritize the indicators and choose our headline indicators and our secondary indicators. If an indicator rates low on data power, a data development agenda should be created to attend to this. At the level of performance accountability, we measure success in terms of performance measures. At this level, we ask, are we doing the things we planned in the right way? We measure performance and the work being done to achieve the result using performance measures. RBA is based in data, which is used to evaluate the situation and measure success. RBA defines 3 performance measure categories that are derived from thinking about quantity and quality of effort and effect. In other words, how much did we do? How well did we do it? Measured in terms of how hard we tried and whether we made a difference. This can be visualized using this rubric. How much service did we deliver is the quantity of the effort. How well did we deliver it is the quality of the effort. The quantity of the effect is how much change did we produce, and the quality of the effect is what quality of change did we produce. Quantity is measured in numeric form, while quality is measured in percentage. Let's take, for example, an education program that looks to increase the number of 9th graders who graduate on time and enter college or employment after graduation. The assumption is that the fewer students there are in a class, the better the result. A way to quantify the effort would be to measure the number of students in the program. A measure of the quality of the effort, or how well we did what we set out to do, could be the ratio of students to teachers. To see whether anyone is better off, we would look at the number of students who succeeded in the program. And to measure the positive change we made, we look at the percentage of successful students. Excuse me. Another example could be the fire department looking to lower the number of fires that spread beyond the room of origin as a way to minimize damage and danger by responding as quickly as possible to calls. A way to quantify the effort would be to measure the number of responses to fires within a certain period. A measure of the quality of the effort, or how well we did what we set out to do, could be the fire department's response time to calls. To see whether anyone is better off, we would look at the number of fires kept to the room of origin, and to measure the positive change we made, we looked at the percentage of fires kept to the room of origin. The 4 quadrants are not equally important. The upper left quadrant is the least important, quantity of effort. Many programs measure how much they did and neglect to measure the effect of the effort. The lower right quadrant is the most important, as our efforts should yield results. Also important is the measure of how well we did the work. In the public sector, it takes partnerships across agencies to yield the best results for community well-being. Similarly, we can control the amount of effort we expend, which is the top left. We can top left quadrant, and have the least control over the quality of this effort, lower right quadrant, as results are dependent on partnerships. We use the same criteria to select headline performance measures that we used in selecting headline indicators: communication power, proxy power, and data power. And in the same way that we prioritized and chose headline indicators, we select and prioritize headline performance measures. And I will now pass it on back to Xavier.
All right, thank you. Oh, in closing of our RBA professional certification, we found after completing RBA training, one should be able to explain and apply turn the curve thinking and decision making with organizations using turn the curve turn the curve questions and strategies for decision making. It will help them explain underlying purpose of applying each core question to indicators or performance measures. It is also helps organizations apply RBA to critical decisions and desired outcomes. By using the ends to a means decision-making process, organizations can ensure desired outcomes are clear and action steps speak directly to the goals established. In closing, and on behalf of Ayelet, Gwen, and myself, we thank you for your time today. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.